called phase 2 of this mission to bring the miners back to the surface, and it is gathering momentum. Hundreds of them are believed to still be underground at that disused shaft. Provincial oversight structures are also set to visit the site. Newzroom Afrika's Ziniko Mhlaba live to us now with an update. Ziniko, a very good morning to you. So we saw the heavy machinery coming in, what looks like one of those big diggers that are usually used on construction sites. So when we say phase 2 is gathering momentum, are we seeing any signs of that momentum at 10 o'clock this morning?
Good morning, Michelle. Yes, indeed, we are seeing, some signs of that, process when it comes to phase 2 kicking off this morning officially, especially when it comes to, having the right tools, the right machinery on the scene. That heavy machinery you speaking about arrived about 2 hours ago in the morning, and of course, it was then, expected that it will take, it will start operating in an hour's time, and exactly after an hour it had arrived, it started, operating. And of course, in the last hour, we saw that camera, that was hanging over that big crane, which is just hanging over that big hole. And by now, we can confirm that the camera has been deployed underground to check and monitor what's happening, underground. But also, we've been speaking about, the issue of communication between, committee members, law enforcement officers, but also those illegal miners underground. There's also been some issues in terms of how to mitigate and mend the relationships between committee members, but also volunteers with the law enforcement agencies, as we know that it's going to be very critical to have that line of communication, to have that collaboration between all these parties. I'm joined now by SANCO Northwest spokesperson, Mr. Mzukisi Jam, who is here with us this morning. Mr. Jam, thank you very much, sir, for your time. Before we talk about the slow process that this operation was operating under over the past 2 weeks, there's this issue of the role that must be played by community organizations, by community leaders themselves under the ground. How do you think that has been going? How have we been having the credible or relevant leaders of society coming through on behalf of the community? From your own perspective, as you know very well that you've got the authority over the communities as SANCO.
Thank you so much. I think we must recommend the efforts made by community leaders together with us as SANCO. We have really made great strides because we have been engaging with the illegal miners who are trapped underground. And that is why we were saying last time, there is a rhetoric which is being sold that the people underground actually do not want to come out, which is not true. Because together with the community leaders and the community at large, we have been pulling those people out using the ropes, and we have been really making some sort of progress, as much as it was not really much of a progress, but we have been making progress. So there is a working relationship, and the community is cooperating. But what needs to be really amended is the relationship between the community and the law enforcement authorities. They have this tendency of wanting to be feared, and I don't understand if they portray that. How do they then expect the community to work together with them? So it's really important that we fix or amend that kind of a relationship, because law enforcement authorities should be able to work openly and freely with the community.
I mean, there have been reports in terms of whether the people who have been coming here are indeed community leaders. At the lowest level, people are aware of maybe what committee, maybe chairperson of a SANCO. But when it comes to the gentlemen who've been here, assisting here, there have been questions about whether they are really the true reflection of community leaders. Are they really, community leaders or activists in this space of mining operations?
Well, the people we've been working with, it's both activists and community leaders. So we know the community leaders in each and every community that we work with. So the people that we have been working with here are community leaders. Another thing that we must actually be mindful of, or that we must guard against, it's interests of different politicians and political organizations which have their own interests, rather than the interest of the community, which is to take these people out alive, which is to save lives. So those are the things that we must guard against, because you will have some saying there are some members within the community who are actually not community leaders or who are politicians or whatever the case may be. But I can confirm with you to you now that the people that we have been working with are community leaders, but also we worked with activists who felt that it was necessary for us to take these people alive so that they can then be processed by law enforcement authorities after we have taken them out to the surface.
Very quickly, say, last question to you. There have been reports that there have been attempts, elements of extortion in terms of wanting to get a share from here. How prevalent is that in these communities? And of course, is that something that is worrying community members, and how can it be nabbed very quickly so that it does not disturb the operations here at the site?
We have not received any of such reports. I think it's on the basis of the fact that our really interest has always been on making sure that there is progress and making sure that people are taken out to the surface. So if there were any or there are any allegations of extortion and anyone who has such information, that it must be processed accordingly. But as SANCO, our interest really has been, and it still is, to make sure that these people are taken to the surface alive. And we have saved we save lives as much as we can. Then any other stakeholders who have a responsibility or a role to play after these people have been taken to the surface, we are not standing in front of everyone, of anyone. Then they can proceed. But our interest is to make sure that these people are taken out to the surface alive.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. That's the spokesperson of SANCO in the Northwest, Mr. Mzukisi Jam, just giving us his insights on some of the elements which have crept in, but also just giving us insights in terms of the stance between committee members. He's emphasizing, that issue of having a good relationship between committee members themselves with law enforcement at the scene. So that's the latest from us. We will await then, Michelle, to see what that camera which has been deployed underground comes back with. And of course, we are still anticipating for that visit by the Community Safety Portfolio Committee here. They are currently meeting at Stilfontein police station, getting a briefing from SAPS members who have been at the scene, and we expect them to arrive anytime between 10 and 11.
So, Ziniko, before we let you go, just to be clear, that heavy machinery behind you is meant for the deployment of the camera, but it's not meant to actually help bring people to the surface? Have I got that wrong?
So we're not sure exactly what the purpose of that crane is, but from as you said in your intro earlier on, that is the crane that we usually see at construction sites, which will be used to transport, bricks from one position to the other. So it's mainly about lifting objects, but I'm not sure if maybe it's going to be used or it's here for the same purpose in this particular thing, because it's a different operation altogether. So I think once then, members of the rescue mission are able to give us information or some form of an update indirectly or indirectly, that's when we'll get more insights in terms of what kind of machinery is here and what each machine will be doing in terms of the rescue operation. And maybe when we engage with the portfolio committee, because the portfolio committee will have intimate briefing from the site, from all those that are responsible here, the rescue experts, law enforcement, and then that's where we'll get more clarity on those issues. But I can confirm that, it's been here, and as you said, its first primary job, which it had just started, was deploying that camera onto the surface. But we know that there will be, some form of a skateboard which is going to be deployed down there to retrieve those people. Whether it's going to be connected to that crane or not, we cannot give a direct answer to those questions, but we'll get more clarity maybe later on in the day.
I see. Yeah, and hopefully when we get that briefing from the Community Safety Portfolio Committee. Ziniko Mhlaba is keeping a close eye on that story. He's live to us there in Stilfontein in the Northwest.